Welcome to Florida. For many, the epitome of the American dream. In the southernmost state of the contiguous USA, a land unfolds that has far more to offer than Miami and Orlando. Endless beaches, tropical swamps, and the wildest national parks. Between the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico, we explore the Sunshine State today. Florida is located in the southeastern United States and is the only state that features at least a tropical climate in its southern regions. With over 2,000 kilometers of coastline, it ranks first among all states nationwide. Flat, sandy beaches, mangrove forests, and offshore island chains characterize large parts of the landscape. The climate is predominantly subtropical to tropical. Hot summers, mild winters, and high humidity define daily life, especially in the south, where you are closer to Cuba than to northern Florida. One of the most extraordinary regions is Everglades National Park. Alligators, rare bird species, and a wide variety of other animals live here, in one of the most sensitive ecosystems in the USA. Florida is also known for its island chains, above all the Florida Keys, which stretch like a bridge into the open sea and mark the southernmost point of the US mainland. But Florida is not just nature. With cities like Miami and Orlando, the state is one of the most important tourist destinations in the world. Theme parks, beaches, and an international atmosphere attract millions of visitors every year. Historically, the state has much to offer as well. The city of St. Augustine in northern Florida is considered the oldest continuously inhabited European settlement in what is now the USA. We begin our journey in South Florida, more precisely in the most dynamic part of the state. Here in Miami, tropical landscapes meet the iconic skyline right on the coast. A city defined less by individual attractions and more by its atmosphere, or as people love to say today, the vibe. Miami is a cultural crossroads between North and South America. The city is shaped by several international influences. Above all, Latin American cultures have left a lasting mark on life here, visible in language, music, and everyday life. Downtown Miami shows the economic side of the Magic City. Glass facades, high-rises, and wide streets define the picture, reflecting the modern face of the city. South Beach is one of the most famous coastal stretches in the USA and shapes Miami's image worldwide. A wide, bright, sandy beach extends along the coast, lined by palm trees and open spaces. Just behind it begins the Art Deco district. Pastel-colored buildings, clean lines, and geometric shapes give this neighborhood a unified appearance. Many of these buildings date from the 1930s and were deliberately preserved to maintain the character of the area. Running through the middle of the neighborhood is Ocean Drive, a street that runs parallel to the coast and is known for its lively atmosphere. Restaurants, bars, and cafes line the road, while the buildings are illuminated in typical neon lights at night. Wynwood shows a completely different side of the city. Once an industrial district, the area has developed into a center for street art. At its heart are the Wynwood Walls, large-scale murals by international artists that transform entire streets into open galleries. The artworks change regularly, ensuring that the neighborhood is constantly evolving. The structure of the district deliberately remains raw. Old buildings, open spaces, and industrial elements form a contrast to the colorful art. Little Havana forms the cultural center of Miami's Cuban community. Here, a side of the city emerges that is strongly shaped by tradition and everyday life. Calle Ocho is the neighborhood's most famous street. Small cafes and restaurants create an atmosphere that clearly differs from the rest of the city. Spanish is omnipresent, and many influences come directly from Cuban culture. In the parks, locals gather to play dominoes, a tradition that Cuban exiles brought to Miami in the 1960s. But Miami wouldn't be Miami without its skyline. High-rises stretch along the kilometers-long coastline and are reflected in the waters of Biscayne Bay. Many of the skyscrapers are relatively new and feature glass facades. They reflect light, sky, and sea, making them appear almost luminous. The effect is especially visible from a distance. Bridges connect different parts of the city and reinforce the impression of a metropolis that lives directly on the water. Downtown Miami represents the modern side of Florida, an urban structure that has grown up out of the water. Between palms, culture, and skyline, Miami radiates a unique sense of life. Once you've been here, you carry a piece of that special flair with you forever. Just a few kilometers from Miami, the face of Florida changes completely. Dense development gives way to open landscapes, roads lose their significance, and nature takes control. One place stands out above all: Everglades National Park. It is one of the most unique landscapes in the world and is often described as a river of grass. This subtropical wetland stretches over thousands of square kilometers and forms a complex network of swamps, mangroves, open water surfaces, and slightly elevated islands. In the still waters, alligators appear like ancient guardians of a forgotten world. They drift silently through the water, often nothing more than eyes and snout above the surface, while light reflects in the swamps. With an almost eerie calm, they observe their surroundings, perfectly adapted to this unique ecosystem. You encounter them here not behind glass, but in their natural home, where they have survived unchanged for millions of years. A moment that inspires awe and makes the wild side of Florida powerfully felt. Airboat tours are especially popular here, offering exploration opportunities directly on the water. Some are, strictly speaking, located slightly outside the park boundaries. One of the most famous roads through the park is the Tamiami Trail, connecting Miami with Florida's west coast and offering first glimpses of the landscape. Particularly accessible is Shark Valley, where paths lead through open grasslands ideal for wildlife observation. A lookout tower offers a rare overview of the otherwise flat and hard-to-see surroundings. Besides alligators, bird species also play a central role. Herons and ibises are a defining sight, making the region an important refuge for migratory birds. The Everglades are not a classic national park with clear highlights, but an ecosystem that works through its vastness and tranquility. South of the mainland, a chain of islands stretches more than 180 kilometers into the open sea. Over 1,700 islands connect a wide variety of landscapes here. The region feels less like a part of the USA and more like the Caribbean in many respects. Marathon is one of the central island towns of the Florida Keys, known for a mix of nature, sea, and a relaxed atmosphere. A canal runs past luxury houses that were deliberately designed to give boats direct access to the sea. This is also where one of the state's most iconic structures begins, the 7-mile bridge. It connects several islands and extends over a length of more than 11 kilometers. During the crossing, a wide view opens up on both sides over the sea. Turquoise waters, flat sandbars, and scattered islands define the surroundings. The bridge feels minimal. No development, almost no distractions, just road, water, and sky. The 7-mile bridge is less a destination in itself and more a transition into the vastness of the Western Keys. Key West forms the southernmost point of the Florida Keys and, at the same time, the end of the US mainland. The city feels compact but independent. Colorful wooden houses, narrow streets, and tropical vegetation, its architecture is strongly influenced by Caribbean traditions. After all, The city is significantly closer to the Cuban capital than to Miami, for example. At its center runs Duval Street. Restaurants, small shops, and open bars line the road, while life mostly takes place outdoors. Sunset is also a fixed part of daily life here. At Mallory Square, visitors gather each day to watch the light fade over the sea. Key West marks the conclusion of the island chain, a city with its own rhythm, shaped by location, climate, and cultural influences. Now we head into central Florida. Between natural wilderness and artificially created worlds, two extremes merge here. Orlando is one of the most well-known travel destinations in the world, a center of the theme park industry. The city itself feels modern and functional. Wide streets, large open areas, and a clear structure define the image. In the center lies Lake Eola, a green space with water, pathways, and views of the surrounding skyline. But Orlando's true significance lies outside the city center. Walt Disney World forms the largest connected leisure complex in the world. On an area larger than many cities, multiple theme parks, hotels, and artificial landscapes have been created. Castles, themed worlds, and staged settings create an environment that deliberately departs from reality. The entire complex is designed to create its own world, enclosed, controlled, and completely staged. Just a few kilometers away lie the Universal Studios. Here too, movie worlds take center stage. Famous sets and themed areas based on international productions are translated into walkable spaces. The focus is on movement and dynamism. Roller coasters, simulations, and interactive attractions define the experience. Together, these attractions form a center that draws millions of visitors each year and significantly shapes the region economically. In Orlando, every adult gets to see the world once more through the carefree eyes of a child. And that is precisely where its magic lies. A striking contrast in central Florida is found in the so-called springs, some of the clearest freshwater sources on Earth. They form when groundwater is filtered through limestone and rises to the surface, producing springs of remarkable clarity. Crystal Springs is one of the most famous of these places. The water appears almost transparent, while underwater landscapes are clearly visible beneath the surface. One of the few places in the world where swimming with manatees is permitted. Rainbow Springs is distinguished by its colorful underwater world. Visitors love to dive along the river here, but the water is so clear that you can observe the thousands of fish accompanying you even from a kayak. Ginny Springs, Weeki Wachee Springs, King's Landing, we could go on forever, but that would go well beyond the scope of this video. The springs reveal a side of Florida that often stands in the shadow of the major cities. The atmosphere of the West Coast is somewhat less dynamic than that of the East Coast. Cities and islands here are even more closely connected to nature. Tampa Bay forms the center of this region, a space that brings together urban development and coastal landscapes. Tampa is located on the northern edge of Tampa Bay and combines modern infrastructure with historical elements. It is increasingly developing into an economic hub. Similar to Miami, high-rises and wide streets define the image, while a publicly accessible promenade stretches along the Tampa Riverwalk. A special part of the city is Ybor City. This neighborhood emerged in the 19th century through Cuban and Spanish immigrants and was once one of the most important centers of cigar production in the USA. St. Petersburg lies directly across from Tampa and is often referred to as the cultural capital of Florida. A central highlight is the Dali Museum, dedicated to Spanish artist Salvador Dali. A little outside the city, in Clearwater Beach awaits, one of the most beautiful beaches in the USA. Fine, bright sand and shallow, clear water define the setting. Compared to the Atlantic coast, the sea here is calmer, making the beach particularly accessible. South of St. Petersburg lies Anna Maria Island. Here, the focus is on old Florida charm. No large hotel chains or high-rises. Instead, small houses, pastel-colored cottages, and a relaxed atmosphere. The island deliberately embraces tranquility over parties, making it perfect for switching off. As along the entire Gulf Coast, sunsets are one of the highlights here. Sanibel Island is known for a detail that sets it apart from many other beaches. The island is considered one of the best places in the USA for collecting shells. Due to its special position, shells from the Gulf of Mexico are washed up onto the beaches and accumulate along the coastline. A place that shows how even small geographic differences can dramatically change the appearance of a region. Rounding off the west coast is Siesta Key, home to the finest sand on the US mainland. It is composed of approximately 95% quartz. The grains are extremely fine and soft. The surface appears almost powdery as a result and remains comparatively cool even under intense sunlight. What was once a hidden gem increasingly attracts visitors today, but the vastness of the beach preserves its sense of calm. Finally, northern Florida reveals a quieter and historically shaped side of the state. Here, the past takes center stage. St. Augustine is considered the oldest continuously inhabited city in the USA and was founded as early as 1565 by Spanish settlers. The old town is characterized by narrow alleyways, low buildings, and a clearly recognizable colonial structure. Horse-drawn carriages travel through the streets, reinforcing the historic image. The city feels like an open-air museum, where history is not merely displayed, but remains a living part of everyday life. Just a few steps away stands the Castillo de San Marcos, a fortress built in the 17th century that ranks among the oldest preserved structures of its kind in the USA. Jacksonville is the largest city in Florida by area, but it differs considerably from the well-known metropolises. The city lies on the St. Johns River, which winds through much of the area and eventually flows into the Atlantic. This location shapes the entire structure. Waterways, bridges, and open spaces are a permanent feature of the cityscape. Along the coast, wide beaches stretch out, far less crowded than in other parts of Florida. Daytona Beach combines coastal landscapes with a strong connection to motorsport. The city is world famous for the Daytona International Speedway, where one of the most significant car races in the USA takes place, the Daytona 500. This link to speed defines the entire image of the city. The beach itself is unusual as well. It is wide, firm and compact, so that vehicles are permitted to drive directly on the sand in certain sections. This characteristic gives Daytona Beach a distinctive quality that sets it apart from classic beach destinations. The pier forms a central meeting point. From here, particularly impressive sunrises can be observed as the coast faces east. The wonders of Florida lie not in individual places, but in the interplay of nature, culture, and contrasts. A destination that surprises again and again, and that is precisely where its special allure lies. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If so, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any more videos, and let us know which destination we should feature next. See you next time.